I was in New York, and I'm traveling and doing some stuff, but I'm glad to be back with you guys now. It's always great and special when you kick these things off with a prayer, and we bow our heads and we remember what it's all about. So thank you. You're eloquent. I have to say a blessing at a wedding in a couple hours from now, and will you do it? I don't know what I'm going to say. So, do you have any advice? Just speak from the heart, right?
Yeah, speak from the heart.
Be funny.
Be funny?
Be yourself.
Just be yourself. My younger brother made a speech last night at this rehearsal dinner. It was awful. he was rambling and he dropped his pages and he had a few drinks and he couldn't remember and he kind of muddled his way through it. There were 75 people there, and when he got done, I'm in the back, I go, what a mess! Totally.
You should leave with that tonight.
Really? So, yes.
You can do the acts, acknowledge, confess, thank God, and ask Him to supply. That's how I remember when I'm like, what should I pray?
All right, that's help, thank you.
Acts. I can write it down later.
Please do, I need all help I can get.
You should do that love is patient, love is kind verse.
That one.
First grade. Really?
Really?
Where's the joke? We need a laugh. Love is patient, love is kind. Don't get a big behind. We need a punch. So, is there anybody here that hasn't been in the earlier sessions? Anybody brand new? No. Okay. So, are we all up to speed in terms of like you wrote? How do we describe the pitches, right? So I gave notes on those pitches.
Soft pitches.
Right. So it was written. So did you get your notes and feedback on your pitches? Okay. No. No. Yours, I don't think I actually got. Did you? Who's in? I didn't get a couple of them.
There's a few.
The elevator?
Okay, so there's a few that what we're going to do, if you pitched, but it wasn't on camera, Jim would like for us to tape again so that he can go back and give feedback. So we're going to do that later today.
Okay. So, it's tricky when I'm giving feedback on what I read. I'm trying to be constructive, I'm trying to be positive, I'm trying to be upbeat, but this is kind of an intense thing that we're doing here. We're compressing a small amount of time and turning you guys into half-hour comedy writers. And along the way, it could get a little bloody. You know, it could get a little tough. So my role, I think, is to be constructive and be positive and be supportive and nurturing, but I also don't have time to play around. So it's with love, but it's with respect too that I give notes that sometimes maybe a little bit harsh or brutal or kind of, I don't know what to say. So that's what we need to see, that's gonna separate those two paragraphs in the one sheet. What is the purpose of a one sheet?
It's your idea.
I can't hear, anybody?
It's your idea?
No?
Okay.
We talked about it. The purpose of a one sheet is to give it to the network, to have them read it and go, okay, we'll spend $800,000 on this and give you notes and take your soul and your spirit out. But that's the purpose. That's the purpose of a one sheet. But you spend.
Yeah, in the one sheet, you said 2 paragraphs after the synopsis at the top.
Yes, sir.
Is that, I looked up something that said that's just basically a detailed description of each character and how they fit into the story. Is it more just a summary of like what's going to happen? Or is,
Well,
'cause I wrote it as.
so where did you look that up? Like in a writer's book?
Yeah, I was just Googling through stuff and they had an example of How I Met Your Mother. And it was like the one sheet for that. And it was just a synopsis and the characters and how they were different, interactions, that kind of stuff.
So here's how, again, we're compressing stuff. I'm gonna make the buy or make the assumption that I can connect with the characters, but the characters would really come in a Bible, right? So you would do a Bible. This is a show, it's a high concept show about an astronaut who winds up on a beach, he finds a bottle, he uncorks the bottle, a genie comes out, the genie decides to live with him, and life goes on. So that's the synopsis and then of the Bible, and then you do character descriptions. You know, you've got the astronaut, you've got the genie, you've got the astronaut's best friend, you've got the Dr. Bellows character, and each character is defined. Again, you don't have the luxury of time, so I'm going to buy into the fact that these characters are viable. I just kind of want to know the log line, 3 sentences about what this is, and then 2 paragraphs. Paragraph for the first act, your act break is in the middle, and a paragraph for the second act. Yes?
And so, do I understand that what we are now focusing on, the one sheet is focusing on the pilot, the story of the pilot, not the story of the concept, but the pilot specifically?
They kind of speak together. They're kind of one and the same thing. If you're going to remember what a pilot is. A pilot is the first one out, right? There's a pilot whale. Pilot is the first one out. Everything after the pilot is going to have DNA directly connected to the pilot. So it's your characters and it's the premise of the story. We got to focus on the pilot. What is our pilot story? And in the back of your mind as writers, you better be able to, and the other thing I'm harping on all the time, I'm harping. I'm going, okay, where are we getting 100 episodes? Some of your ideas are great, but you as writers, can you kind of go, I can take this in zillions of directions. You got to answer those questions. Where is the engine for storytelling? Where is the engine for storytelling? How are we getting 100 episodes out of this? And it's great to have a fun pilot, but if you as a writer can't see, you know, growing this and turning it into many episodes, then you got a problem. And I don't think it's a problem that any of you should be worried about, because as I get your material, as I kind of go through it, like when Susie gave me this, I shot back on some of them. Some of your feedbacks, I was like, okay, it's a great backdrop, but where are 100 episodes? Where are the characters? Where's the dramatic? What's the conflict? You know, so you got to think about all that. Pilot's the first one out, but as you write that pilot, you know, I just go to kicking it as an example because of the last thing I did for Disney. You know that story is I just got so frustrated. I blurted out what their thing should be. You know, because they kept lying to me and telling me I was going in for other reasons. I was like, okay, you want to do a martial arts show? Here's how you do it. And I just blurted something out, and they bought it. And I got to the car, and I called my wife, and I go, they bought it. And she said, bought what? I go, I don't know. But so then it scared me. All right. So then they buy this. Oh, this went down. That's nice. They buy the premise. And I go, okay, let's do a kind of a rundown karate dojo in a strip mall. These 4 kids come together. They would never hang out together, but they have something in common, and they suddenly start to realize that they're better off together than they are apart. They're kind of like a family. It's a dysfunctional family, but they're like every family, but they're a family, so they're better off together than they are apart. So I came up with the idea for the pilot, and we shot it, and it came out really well. And then they called me up and they said, we're gonna pick it up to series, and we're gonna do 22 or 24, wherever it was. I went, great, and then I went into panic mode. I went, oh my God, how do you get 22 episodes out of people karate chopping each other? I said, I'm gonna go to jail. I will go to jail. They just spent all this money on a pilot. I'm the guy to back it up, and I got nothing. I'm gonna go to jail. So, that's true. I really thought I was gonna go to prison. I thought that a couple of times in my life. But I quickly realized, here's what we gotta do. Martial arts and karate, karate chop, that's all backdrop. It's just stuff in the, what's really important are these characters. So that's when I realized, okay, we can get a bunch of episodes out of this. Because we got these great characters, and these kids are in school. So it's not about martial arts and karate. I mean, that's what the show ultimately was. That's the backdrop. It's about dating, it's about cheating, it's about conflict, it's about winning. It's what's going on in these kids' lives. Your characters are gonna fuel your stories. So they better be rich characters. They gotta be rich, because if they're boring and bland, no one's gonna watch it, and no one's gonna make it, no one's gonna spend money on it. So I came up with characters that were derivative. I mean, I'll be honest about it, I'm not gonna lie to you, they're archetypes. I had the good-looking jock, the guy from the wrong side of the tracks, but he was a good-looking kid, he was an outsider, he was athletic, he was the guy that guys wanted to hang with and girls wanted to be with. That's one. Then I had the poser. I had the guy who thought he was tough but couldn't back it up. Oh, really? Yeah? He was all posture. He couldn't back it up. So those guys are kind of interesting because the audience can see that they're empty. That they can't, it's bravado, and there's something cool about that because that's somebody projecting an image that they really don't have, and there's vulnerability there. So I started to see vulnerability in that character. Then there was the kid who was really super smart, not athletically inclined at all. His father wanted him to be a violin player or a cello player or something, and he snuck out of violin lessons because he wanted to be something more than he was. He was the mouse that roared. He wanted to be something more than he was. He didn't want to be a violin player. He didn't have the body or the athleticism for it, but he wanted to be something. That's a rich character. If you have a character that wants something desperately, that really wants something to reinvent themselves, you can write that character. That's about somebody who wants something. So when you design your characters, they've got to serve you. They've got to be rich and serve you in lots of different ways. Because, again, I love you people. I'm not trying to be a tough guy here, but we don't have the luxury of time. I'm just asking you, when you invent your characters, breathe life into them. And breathe life that gives you heart, vulnerability, compassion. Go through your list of emotions and imbue your characters with these traits. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the role of flaws in character creation?
The role of flaws? Flaws are super, super important. It's a really good question, Ron. Why are flaws important? Yep.
I think it's how we relate to the characters as humans, and also kind of something that makes it funny. It's
Yep.
like just the fumbles and foibles.
Absolutely right. Ben?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yep. Anybody else? Yep.
Flaws get in the way of the character's objective, what they want.
Yep. Anybody else?
It's a conflict, internal conflict that the character hopefully will overcome or not.
That's
Yes.
different. That's different. It's valid. What you're saying is true. But we're talking about flaws. Why are flaws important in characters?
Because they help you identify with that person. You see your reflection of yourself in that person. You want to keep watching to see how you work your own stuff out.
You care.
Yeah.
You care. And somebody who's perfect is boring.
Yes.
Nobody in the world is perfect. There are people who think they're perfect, but nobody's perfect. And flaws are what unite us. They keep us grounded to each other because we all make mistakes. We all have things that are shortcomings. Flaws are super important. And yes, they can serve comedy. I mean, flaws can be funny, but flaws really speak to humanity. They make us identify with characters, and they make you forgive characters. And compassion is super important. We're talking about a lot of different things here. It's all like a big soup. You guys have to decipher it. I'm not very good at this, but
You're doing great.
thank you. But flaws are, when you design your characters, think of these things. You got to care about them. You got to get invested in them. And flaws get you there because we're forgiving people. And you guys especially, right? Because we're people of faith.
Right.
And we we live in a world where we forgive and we recognize flaws in our brothers and sisters, and we forgive them because we've been forgiven. Flaws are super important. I've got 3 daughters, and I've told them, I kind of raised them going, the 2 most powerful words you can hear are, I'm sorry. When somebody says, I'm sorry, you better take a beat and look them in the eyes and love them back. Say, forgive them. Flaws are what it's about. Anybody else? Question, comment? Yeah.
The character description, how long can that be?
Okay, well, so
How many sentences?
here's what I'm trying to figure out here. Do we want to describe characters in this one sheet, or do we want to do that as an overview? Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do that like an additional attachment. So why don't you do one document where you give your characters, your main characters. I don't care about day players. I don't care about reoccurring. Who's your ensemble? Who are your characters that we're going to see every single week? 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's Jerry, it's Frank, it's Ben, it's Donald, and Karen. So you give me their names, their ages, in parentheses, give me their ages, and then give me a brief description of who these people are. And in that, that's when we can talk about their flaws, right? He's a loudmouth because he's insecure and he can't back it up, but that's where we'll see the flaws. Or he's a strong character, he's a lead character. Everybody wants to get to know this guy because he's strong and reliable, dependable. Give me a description of all of your characters before the one sheet. So now, if I read that and I go to the one sheet, I have a better understanding of what I'm looking at. Yes, sir?
How many acts are there?
You can write either 2 or 3 acts. For this journey that we're on, I like it 2 acts. It doesn't really matter because it's really about commercial placement. I like a 2 act because that's what I grew up on. That's what I always wrote. It's easier for me.
Okay, so Act 2 will take to the end of the story.
What's that?
Act 2 will take to the end of the story.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We're writers. We're storytellers. We just want to tell great, inventive, funny, coherent stories with characters that we're invested in. Remember what I said. You've got to, guys, this is the most important thing I can ever say to you. If we're not invested in your characters and your story, it's not going to go anywhere. I said to you guys, I'll give you 1 second. I said to you from the beginning, write stuff you know, write stuff you care about, write stuff that is in your blood. Because your journeys are all beautiful, they're all unique, they're all different. Nobody's lived your life. Nobody has seen the sacrifice or the things that you've seen or the things that make you cry and laugh. Your journeys are what you have to dial into. You have to get that soul out, and you got to care. If you don't, I stop reading scripts when people say, hey, you're a writer, would you do me a favor, give me some notes on the script. And I always was reluctant to do it, but then I just stopped doing it because, for a couple reasons. One, as arrogant as it may seem, I'm kind of a humble person, and I kind of go, who am I to judge other people's material? Then they go, well, hang on a second. You're getting paid. You're a professional, and that's why they're asking you. And what would Jesus do? You help people, right? So you go, okay, I'll read the script. But then you read the script, and it's a 35-page script. By the 5th page, you're in a coma. And I go, now how do I give positive feedback to this person? And so it's just a sticky thing, and I just don't like reading other people's work because I don't know how to all the time articulate or try and spin it. And spin it so that I'm not tearing someone's down. Who am I to deflate somebody? On the other hand, if you're giving me a document and you're going, hey, you're a professional, would you give me your opinion? You don't want my opinion. You know, I just read a script by 2 guys, 2 brothers who I really respect and admire. They're really funny guys, great guys. And they wrote a spec script. I just read it, so let me put it in context. It was, so it was dark and edgy. It was about a bowler. It was about a professional bowler. And it was like Danny McBride, right? It was like this guy comes back from his glory days, and he's going to rebuild himself, and that doesn't work out. And a daughter who he didn't know, this illegitimate girl comes out of the woodwork, and she's a pro bowler, it's his daughter, and they kind of blah, 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 it goes on and on. A lot of it was good, a lot of it was okay. There was some stuff that was really funny and good, some stuff, and I kind of gave them some notes and stuff like that, and these guys I love, and I respect, they're really good writers, but they were talking about casting, because they want to get this out to some actors, and I don't think the material matched up with their desire for, I mean, the actors they were talking about were crazy. And so in the back of my mind, I'm hearing this conversation going, that actor's never going to do this script.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a tricky thing to try and interpret people's material and be positive and upbeat. But the most important thing I can tell you is please, please, please make it count. Make it matter. The last thing I wrote, I told you, was about these two brothers living with this terrible, terrible father. And on page 5, he was killed. He was hit by a truck, and it was the happiest day of their life. And because this man was a monster, he was just a horrible, a single parent. He accidentally killed their mother by running over her with a snowblower. And so these two boys were living with this man. Yeah, it's crazy. And they were living with this man who was just, you know, an alcoholic and a delusional man who thought about ways to make money and these get-rich-quick schemes, and he would drag these boys through it, and every single thing that he would do ended in disaster, which is horrible. And he took these two boys, so on page 5, he was selling hot dogs out of a van with the two boys in the van, and they look out, and he's drunk, and he's got this sign, and he's trying to get people over the side of the road with his hot dog sign, and he's hit by a car, and these two boys, yes! It's the happiest day of their life. They run through the neighborhood, and they're going to do things that they could never do while he was alive. One boy wants to date this girl, but he didn't have the guts to go to the girl while the father was alive because the father would screw it up. He screwed up everything. So they're about to do things that they couldn't do while their father was alive. Their lives are great. On page 8, he comes through the door. What? You're alive? He goes, yeah, I was drunk. I was too drunk to die. The doctor said that I just went with the car. I just went with it. What? Yeah, can you imagine? I was too drunk to die. I'll see you. And he goes, and so now it's about these boys realizing that the happiest moments of their life were when they thought their father was dead. And this is all very dark stuff, by the way. I get it, we're doing comedy, but this is all really, they decide, okay, we're not going to kill him, but we've got to get this guy out of our lives. So the engine for storytelling is in every episode, you're going to go on a journey with these boys to figure out how they can get rid of their father. And I wrote that because it's loosely based on my truth, my life. My father was that guy, did all the things that I wrote about in this book. He didn't get hit by a car and killed, but he was just a horrible, horrible man, miserable alcoholic who had all these ideas of how to get rich and would drag us through these journeys, and they all ended in disaster. So when I was looking for the next thing to write, I was like, I remember thinking of pushing my father off the roof one time, thinking I could maybe help him die. He was putting Christmas lights up on the house, and I was up there with him, and he was just a miserable guy. And he's yelling at people and cursing, he's throwing stuff at people, just as a whole thing. And I'm this little boy up on the roof, and I'm looking at him, and I'm kind of going, in my head, I went, if I go like this, he will probably fall off and hit his head on the driveway and he'll die. And I had this flash in my head, as crazy as that sounds, when I was a little kid. So I was thinking, okay, what's the next thing I want to write? And I remembered that I had that memory, and I go, okay, that turned into fuel for storytelling. And it was, well, I think for me, it was one of the best things I've ever written, because when you're at your laptop and you're doing this and you're not even thinking, and it's just coming out, that's kind of magic right there. And I was just remembering things and just remembering him, and it was coming out. So my point to all this is please, please, have your characters mean something. Have your stories mean something. Outside of that door, there's 1 billion people more talented than you. There's 1 billion people out there more talented than you. So you have to rise up and go, no they're not. No, they're not. Nobody has walked in these shoes and knows my story. I can tell a story no one else can. Now, we're talking about comedy, and some of this stuff I'm saying sounds maybe a little theatrical, a little dramatic, a little heavy. It doesn't matter. You're storytellers. Story. When cave people got to the cave and they lit the fire and the caveman said, and he told a story about a tiger, a saber-toothed tiger. You had the same chemistry. You had people listening. And you had the tiger go, you had the same investment. Or you had people going, I don't really want to hear about your tiger. And they go and they pick up a rock and hit their head with it. It's the same engagement. You've got to get people. Whether it's drama or comedy, you're storytellers. You've got to get people. Don't write boring. If you write boring, I love you, but you're wasting your time, and you're wasting my time, you're wasting Susie's time. Don't write boring. Write truth. So, meet out your stories. Kind of think of your first 5 pages of your book. You got to get people in that cold open. You got 5 pages to kind of just get people invested, and then you go on your journey into your 2-act structure. Yes?
I have kind of a similar question to Ben. So I have a big plot reveal, but it's not actually until like 5 episodes in. Should I include that plot reveal in the one sheet?
Well, here's the thing. Pilots are a sales tool, right? You're not going to get to 5 episodes in if you didn't get your pilot in. So I wouldn't worry about the 5 episodes. It's good to think of arcs, to think of like where is this going to go.
Yeah.
It's good to think of that, but put all your money in your pilot. You're not going to get 5 episodes or 10 episodes or 12 episodes if you don't get your pilot picked up. So I would really focus on putting all your marbles into that pilot. You know, and I hear writers all the time say, and the writers are too, and they go, you know what? Oh, we should save that for another episode. I'm like, no, hang on a second. Well, we can save it, but why save it? Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Yes.
So, do you have to introduce all your main characters in the pilot?
Yes. If they're regulars, we're going to see them every episode. Yes, I have to meet them in the pilot. You can introduce other characters that, you know, like every once in a while you'll do a day play or do like a guest role, and somebody will come in and they're like, oh my God, that's so funny. And then you kind of use them again and you make them reoccurring. Every once in a great while, there's such a standout. You know, Urkel, right? I was doing a warm-up on that show, Family Matters, and he was a day player. He was a guest. It was like one episode, and he came in and killed it. And I remember walking to the parking lot with him and his mother, and I was just like, dude, you're really funny. He stole the show. That show was supposed to be Reginald Bell Johnson and his wife. And there was a spin-off of something else, and that was Reginald's show. And Jaleel came in and stole it. And Reginald was outraged. And he went to and they go, look, you have a choice to make. You can be outraged and out of work, or you can get a paycheck and realize you're going to go online for 7 years. He shut up and realized where he was. Yes?
The character's name, which is the first name or first and last name.
Their first name is fine.
Perfect.
Their relationship is good. Are they sisters? Are they the next door neighbor? You know.
Okay. And then in this handout we got last week, they were asking us for a graphic. Do we still need to
Asking for what?
a one-page graphic?
A picture.
A graphic that represents the mood, setting, premise, and a single image. Do you still need this? This is from last week.
A graphic that represents the mood, setting, and premise in a single image. Susie, what do you mean by that?
Like this, a picture.
Now, we need,
I think that's just for when you pitch. I don't.
So here's
we don't need this for next.
So here's what I'm looking at up here. Here's what I would tell you. When I pitch, I'm visual. Like I just pitched on Monday, I did ABC, NBC, HBO, and Comedy Central in one day. The lead behind, and we should have brought it with me. I don't think it's in my car. But I was at a stoplight on Ventura Boulevard, and I looked up and I saw a billboard for a show called Snowfall. I think it's on FX. I've never seen the show.
They're like very colorful buildings.
Yeah, it's really colorful.
Yeah.
And I'm at the stoplight, I'm like, wow, that's a really cool billboard. So I go, I wish I had a billboard for my show, the show that I was pitching. So I called Matt, who's this great art designer, this great graphic guy, and we took, I don't know how he did it, but he took the cast that I had assembled, and he put them together, and we created a billboard. It looked great. So when I went in, I left that as, and I used it to help explain, this is the brother, and these two are related, and this is the mother, and she's kind of the mother-in-law, and so I had visuals that the executives could see what my cast was, the relationship to each other, and then I left it on their desk when I left, just so they could visually have something to remind them of what we had just talked about. So I don't know 100% what this means, to be honest with you, but a graphic that represents the mood, setting, and hang on for a second, setting premise in a single image. If you have anything visual that could help support your pitch, it could just be, go to Google Images, and your show's about a farmer, so type in middle-aged farmer, and great pictures will come up, and just grab one, and it'll help the buyer go, oh, okay, this is a show about this guy who's a farmer. Use your imaginations. Whenever I pitch, I would go to my casting director friends and say, I need this guy, I need that guy, I need this guy. I describe the characters, and they would just give me tons and tons of images to look at, and then I pull them, and now I'm pitching, I'm going, okay, this is the boy, he's 7 years old, he's introverted, his father is trying to get him to be more, come out of his shell, but he doesn't like confrontation. So I looked at an image of a kid that kind of went with that description, a kid who's kind of withdrawn and timid. So use your imaginations. There's no right or wrong to this, but use your imagination. You guys, here's the thing. You're more than writers. You're salespeople. And you have to sell. And I know tons and tons of writers that are very, very talented writers, but they can't sell. They can't go into a room and pitch. It's a skill that they just don't have. They just don't like standing in front of people and talking. Well, you got to sell, right? You have to be commercial. I thought to myself, you know my story. I came from a single, my mom with 6 kids, no money, working in jail, all that stuff, and I kind of, it's all about sales. It's about reinventing yourself. So I kind of go, I was poor as a kid. I'm not going to be poor as an adult. I got to sell, and I know tons of writers who are great artists. And it's great to be an artist, it's great to write and be descriptive and flowing and sit in Starbucks and I go, that doesn't mean anything if you don't sell it. That's what I'm thinking. Right. You gotta sell it, baby. Because it's the business. Who's gonna keep paying for your laptops if you can't get income? You've gotta sell what you write. So think of that as a sales. You've got to be salespeople. So the spine will come after the one sheet, because we'll probably give you notes. Susie, is this right? We'll give notes on the one sheet.
Yeah.
Right. We'll read the one sheet. We'll give notes, and then it's up to you. And by the way, guys, you're either going to get it or you're not. We have this amount of time, so I read it and I give notes. We give back to you, and you're either going to dig in and get it or you're not. And I hope you do, because I'm rooting for you. I want to see you succeed. So it's a process, right? So you'll give us the one sheet, give notes on the one sheet, and then you go to spine. And the spine then is a very brief description of every scene in your play. This is what happens in cold open. 1-1, this happens. 1-2, this happens. 1-3, this happens. 1-4, this happens. Act break. Come back from the act break. Second act. 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4. What goes on in the second act? That's the spine. This is a brief description of every scene in your play.
And
That's a spine. So spines and outlines are the same thing.
Is
that like a beat sheet? Like a beat sheet?
A beat sheet, yeah. So beat sheet, spine, outline, they're all brothers and sisters of the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Joey.
How many scenes should they have in each act?
It's a good question. It's a good question, but
Depends on the story.
depends on the story, but I would say this to you. I keep my scenes humming. If I'm doing more than 4 pages in one scene, I'm asking myself why. Because you're going to get claustrophobic. You got to be in there for 3 or 4 pages. If you're there for, like Everybody Loves Raymond is a big contradiction to that. They would do scenes that were like 19 pages in the living room. Wow. 19 pages in one. But the laugh spread on that show was just gigantic. So they had really small stories because the laugh spread was gigantic, and the show would just stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. So for me, Everybody Loves Raymond is the exception. I kind of, as a storyteller, I like to keep moving, keep humming, just keep going. Now, you should do that with some degree of responsibility, because you ultimately have to produce this, or not me, but Joey has to produce this. So he gets everything. He gets everything. So I go down and I give him the one page, the one sheet, and he looks at it, and he's always, we're really great friends because how much respect I have for him. But he would flag things that were concerns, or things that he was just. And he'd always be positive. It's great, it's great. I just make sure that, and he'd give me some feedback. Like, we can't set, how are we going to shoot that? We can't set the building on fire. And so you learn to write responsibly. But you go into his office, and on his desk, he'd have one sheets over here, he'd have outlines here, for like 5 episodes. They were all laid out, and he'd have magic marker and marker notes on every, so this is episode 1, this is episode 2, and he would just track the birth of the episode. And along the way, he's kind of throwing a shoe at me every once in a while, goes, hey, a Shark Tank? We got a guy who's tight-roping across the Shark Tank, which we did, by the way. Yeah. There's a reason why Joey's in therapy right now. We did. We actually had Mateo on a tightrope above a Shark Tank in an aquarium. No, they were CGI, and they look great. So and that's the other thing, is you got to have a producing partner that is just as passionate about what they do as you are about writing, because he'd get all excited at me and go, I just found these sharks. They're gonna look great. I'm like, okay. You have to worry about the story, but he'd figure out the graphics and the CGI and the special effects and all that stuff. But so here's what I'm saying to you: keep your story moving. You don't want to bore anybody. Keep your story moving, but be responsible. You've got a finite amount of sets, right? So on our show, Joey, how many sets do we have? 4 main sets. They were principal sets that we would use and then we sometimes be able to squeeze in 2 swing sets, smaller sets, or we would treat one set like a shell and then put just move another set into it. So we weren't taking down the set, that was always going to be there, that was our home base, but we put another set inside of it. It was a swing set that was just temporary. So we would turn a cafeteria from a school into an assembly hall or a gymnasium. It's the same set, we would just figure out ways to reconfigure it. So you've got to keep your story moving, but don't write stuff you can't produce. Just think responsibly.
How many sets can maximum can a sitcom have?
Why don't you use the formula that I just laid out? So like 3 or 4 main sets, and then give yourself 2 swing sets. So you've got the living room, you've got the office at work, and whatever else, and then 2 other smaller sets that you're going to be able to add on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Yes.
As far as what would you say would be the creative difference between multi-cam shooting and single cam?
Did everybody hear that question? It's the air ducts in here are tough to, the air conditioning events, but it's a good question. Because creatively, what's the difference between single camera and multicam?
Correct.
Oh.
Okay, so for me, I look at it like a single camera is, I mostly have written multicam. I'm trying to think of the stuff like that. I worked on a show called Grounded for Life, and Grounded for Life was a hybrid, because we would spend 2 or 3 days shooting single cam, which means we'd be out on location. We would use the back lot at CBS Radford, and we'd shoot it like a movie, these small scenes. And then the audience would come in on Thursday, and we'd have a chunk of scenes that we would have to show the audience, do a play in front of a live audience, and then we'd get to those scenes and we'd roll them in. So the storytelling, which was, there's some continuity to it. So it was like, you went to the Christmas tree lot? Yes, I did. I told you. The Christmas tree lot was a place, it was a magical place. And then you go and you show the single cam stuff that we shot at this magical Christmas tree lot. So single cam is a great question. Single cam to me is more creative. It's interesting because I made my living as a warm-up comedian. And I love a live audience because that's where I come from. And I love the energy that they can bring to the taping. And the actors typically love it too, because it's like doing a play, and you have a live audience, and they're responding. And if they're laughing, then you go, this is great. And if you're not, then you go, we gotta rewrite this. And you see writers panicking and on the floor, and they're picking it. So a live audience is my background. That's where I come from. And I love a live audience, the taping of a live audience. A single cam, you don't have a live audience, and it can sometimes be more creative because you don't have the restrictions of pandering to an audience. You can make choices that are more creative. So it's a really good question, and it's up to you guys what you want to do. You can write it, just think how you see it. Is this a multicam, like people sitting on a couch in a living room? Is that where you play, or is it a single cam where it's the office style, or Modern Family, right? Where you can do confessionals and you can make creative choices, or some guy goes, really? I wish that happened to me, and then he has this fantasy, and you can kind of go away and see what his fantasy is, and then go back and, but no, I'll always be working at the post office. You know? So it's choices. You make those creative choices. It's up to you. For this world that we're in, this exercise, the most important is the story. The story. The characters. Don't worry about, you know, is animation going to sell, or they're going to, no, it's going to be too expensive. You got to be responsible in terms of like production, but animation sells all the time, especially in the world we're in now. These digital platforms, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, you go up and down the block. And people, you know, BoJack Horseman, animation is working all over the place. So that's up to you. But I wouldn't, if it's something you've got to get out of, it's inside of you, you have to get it out, because it's really something that you want to share. That's more important than anything else. Get it out.